So kind of where we are now in terms of the season, we're in pre-season mode. It's kind of seen as a necessary evil for players. How did you find pre-season as a player?
I didn't like it. I think it's changed for the better now. It's still hard, but in my day, I mean, I speak to my dad what he used to do, and they used to just go on 10 and 15 mile runs. At least ours was curtailed a bit, but we'd still go on 5-10 mile runs, and then gradually, closer to the season, the shorter and sharper the runs. Nowadays, they don't really do much long distance running. It's repetitive, but but a little bit quicker. So I hated it. I was a useless long distance runner. As soon as we got into the sprints, I was top of the class. Yeah. I think there was, out of about a 30-man squad, I was the second to last long distance runner. And the only one that was worse than me was one of the goalkeepers. So I was a really bad long distance runner and I hated it. So pre-season wasn't something I looked forward to.
So across your career, you played for some of the biggest clubs in the world, as we've said, and as everyone knows. Is there a particular club that had a particularly grueling pre-season process, or is there one club that was a bit like that was harder than the others?
I think in the earlier it was, the earlier I go back, the more
old school it was.
Old school, yeah. So the first pre-season with Liverpool. To be honest, I think Ronnie Moran and Roy Evans were reasonably kind. That wasn't so bad. When Gerard Houllier and the coach was called Patrice came in, that was grueling the first year.
Was that the more European influence coming over?
It was.
Attitude towards fitness and...
Yeah, it was. And it was more advanced, don't get me wrong, and it's even more advanced nowadays, but it was still very hard. So I think the further you go back in my career, the worse it was.
During this period where, as you said, you hated pre-season, let's say like that, motivation is a huge factor in that. How did managers or coaches approach you as a player to get your mindset right? And did any of these clubs use psychologists? Was that a done thing? Was that used back then?
I think psychology or psychologists came in probably about halfway through my career, but it was certainly seen as a weakness. And now they're just, everyone's got them, whether that's teams, individual. Yeah, halfway through my career, so you're talking 2005, around then, they were becoming quite apparent that people were using them. But as I say, it was normally for the players that needed them, that people thought were weak, and now, it's great that it is. It's seen as it should be in terms of it's a positive. Tennis players, golfers have had them all their careers, but in football, that sort of pack mentality of you've got to be weak to see one of those. So I mean, I saw one or two. I was asked to see one or two, but so was the whole squad, and I can see how they benefit some people and not others in many ways, but yeah, it was very much your own choice, I think, back in the day.
So of all the players you've played with, who would you say was the hardest trainer? Who turned up and set the standard?
Probably someone like a Jamie Carragher, Nemanja Vidic, players that that want to win. It's just ingrained in to be honest, most people. There's very few that are shocking on the training pitch and that go out and that are brilliant. You can't just turn on and off what you've got, what you are. You can't pretend. And if I got beaten a five-a-side, it wouldn't come out there and then, because you can't go around hitting people. You can't go around doing stupid things. But I know in my bedroom door in my mum's house, there's probably about 15 holes in it through my fist going through, because we lost a five-a-side. I mean, it's just irrelevant in the scheme of things. But try telling you that when you're getting beat and you can't score, and I get home and something had happened, my mum would say something, my sister would say, and I get that wound up, and it was only because we got beat in the five-a-side during the day. So I think, you've just got these real winners that will literally do anything. You could go like that and wring Carragher's shirt every day and he'd be losing tons of sweat.
Do you think there's a correlation between, because obviously the two examples I said, Vidic and Carragher were two centre-halves. Do you think there's a slight correlation between the position on the pitch and that?
I'm not sure about the position on the pitch, but of course, you're a different type of thinker. If you're a creative player, you're an attacker, you're not thinking of what they're thinking, I suppose.
Yeah.
They're thinking win, throw your body in, run, and we're thinking of, spotting mistakes and trying to be creative.
Finding small moments.
Exactly. So I think the way we think about football is very different. So it probably lends itself to them putting in more work, because they're essentially trying to stop creative players, aren't they? So they probably have to work a bit harder.
So in terms of recovery, and as you kind of got older in your career and your routine might have changed, was there ever a set routine that you always followed in terms of recovery process?
Every team now will have a set thing. So we used to have one at Liverpool, but then I moved clubs, and every team would have a set routine for the year. And it might not change for the next year, they might add one thing in it. So, hydrotherapy has become huge in football. Just basically dangling in the water with floats on, but the pressure on your legs. Ice baths has come into it later on in my career. Actually getting yourself moving, even though you don't want to because you're stiff. When Gerard Houllier was there, it was a fartlek, so we had to walk the half of the pitch, jog, and not sprint, and this is like the day after, you're thinking, I'll snap if we but you do. I think we did about 12-minute fartlek every single time. Then that went out a little bit, and we just used to do a jog around and into the water, spend an hour doing different things in the water, stretching routines, and so it does change, but in general it's all, you'd keep something pretty much for the season. The day after a game, you know what you were coming into, you knew exactly what you were going to do.
Now, did that tailored approach, did that cross over to your nutrition side of the game as well? Did you have a set nutrition requirements for you as a player, as an individual, or was that just a team?
When you're under the club's care, then of course you're all pretty much eating the same, or you've got a selection of the same type of stuff. Again, later on in my career, things are all changed. They're probably doing totally the opposite now, but we'd come in and we'd have to take 5 different supplements or whatever. Listen, they can't mollycoddle you, they can't live with you, they can't cook for you so you'd have meals at home. That's your own, you've got to be disciplined at some point in life. You can't have people holding your hand all the time. But certainly when we were in the club, when we were travelling, it would all be there. You might have a selection of 2 or 3 things, but we'd pretty much be eating the same type of things, yeah. Liverpool are one of the best supported teams in the world, so I was known, but doing it in a World Cup just sends you to a different level, I suppose.